with Kristi Noem.
I was forced to the ground, first on my knees and then flat on my chest.
On the Senate floor, he got emotional recounting the incident, calling President Trump a tyrant and slamming Noem's comments about liberating Los Angeles. A special agent is testifying that a credit card in Sean Diddy Combs' name paid for round-trip travel for a sex worker. She also said his businesses were billed thousands for hotel damages, including $46,000 at the Intercontinental in 2012. And Juneteenth was commemorated Monday at the Pennsylvania State Capitol. The Legislative Black Caucus marked the 1865 date enslaved people in Texas learned they were free. Chair Rep. Napoleon Nelson called it a day to celebrate and recommit to ongoing progress. Get BIN News now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Good morning, wake up.
The Good Morning Show. Good morning. On WBOK.
Wake up, New Orleans. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Good Morning Show. I'm your host, Dr. Ashanta Wyatt. Shout out to my super producer, Nara Sanders, and my co-host, who's back this morning, Will Sutton. Hey, Will.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, New Orleans.
Yeah, it is Wednesday, and Will is back. So, Will.
I'm back.
How was your trip? Let's talk about it.
Man, it was so good. So good. So, for those who don't remember or don't know, I hit the big 7-0.
Happy
last
70th,
week,
Will.
And my wife was going to throw me a big party. And I was like, you know what? I love a good party. But
we could do a little party then.
We could do a little party. But I said, why don't we invest that in, let me see, my best high school buddy and my best college buddy and just hang out in D.C. and Jersey. And so we did, and got to the National African American Museum of History and Culture.
Was it not nice?
Always amazing. Been there before, but it's like anytime you go, it's like a new experience to me, because they have so much, and they're changing exhibits, and there are, quite a number of things connected to Louisiana, including Plessy, the incarceration stuff tied to Angola. They have culture and entertainment exhibits, historical exhibits, civil rights, slavery, and it just reminds me that our history is American history. And for anybody to want to pick away at or tear down our African American Black history museums and groups that really support this history, share this history, is just foolish, because at some point, what part of history do you not want to tell? I mean, there's some disturbing things in there, but there's also joy and hope, and look at what we have done. And I could have spent 2 more days just in there. But also, went to something called the People's House, which I hadn't heard of before. It's instead of going to the White House, you can go to the People's House across the street, and it's a replica of different things, touch screen and that kind of thing. And so that was kind of cool as well. And getting on the Metro several times to take the train this place and that place, and getting on Amtrak, which was one of the things that I loved when I was living in the Northeast, that you could get from here to there. Stopped at Gray 30th Street Station in Philadelphia, didn't stay overnight, just stayed for a while and saw some relatives and friends in Philly. And that station's named after deceased Congressman William H. Gray, who was a big Black powerhouse back in the day. He was House Budget Chair, which was amazing to have somebody Black in a seat like that. And it was a great northeastern, mid-Atlantic northeastern experience, and had a good time. Celebrated my birthday like multiple times. Had cake and dessert, and also my dad, 93-year-old friend, and his wife in Maryland, man, that man's just bopping around the house. The wife said, Adam, get this. He hops up from his chair, goes around the couch, grabs the piece of furniture. It was amazing. That's like older goals for me. So I'm 70 now, but Dr. McKee's 93. Like, wow.
Well,
I look at that.
It's such a blessing, a blessing to still.
It was wonderful.
Have that kind of energy at that.
It really was. But I see a lot of stuff been going on.
A lot of stuff has been going on.
A lot of stuff been going on. I kept up to date a little bit. And oh, by the way, speaking of New Orleans connections, in that area, I had the opportunity to read the New York Times some of the days, including Sunday, and there was a big cover story in the New York Times Magazine. Henry Louis Gates Jr. And he and his team put together additional ancestral research on the new Pope. But right in the first paragraph, they gave a shout out to Jari Honore from New Orleans.
Yeah, shout out to Jari.
Yeah, so that was great. So, but it was amazing. So it's even deeper. They went 5 generations back. So it's even deeper than what we knew. So it was great.
Well, I'm actually glad you had a good time. Welcome back to the show. There is absolute lot.
Oh my goodness.
That is happening. And in the city of Baton Rouge, I wanted to bring forth this story that is happening in the city of Baton Rouge. I watch the news, so you don't have to. Mm-hmm. There's a young lady named Asia. I don't know if she pronounces her last name Raby, R-A-B-Y, but she's facing attempted murder of a cop charges for calling the police. She did what people are told to do, report the crime. She told them her loved one having a mental health crisis ran over a Baton Rouge officer. Now she's in jail for it. And the story that the call that she made was in reference to the police officer, Sergeant Caleb Eisworth, out of Baton Rouge, who was hit. Investigators identified the driver who allegedly hit the sergeant as 41-year-old Gad Black. He has been charged with attempted first-degree murder of a police officer, hate crimes, and resisting arrest. According to an arrest report, Black allegedly took off from the scene after crashing into the officer. Authorities later located the suspect on Airline Highway and took him into custody after he was tased during the struggle. During an interview with authorities, Black alluded to a deep-rooted hatred for law enforcement, according to the arrest report. It added that Black admitted to following Sergeant Eisworth just before the crash. Black was also arrested previously in 2014 on 2 counts of aggravated assault with the vehicle on a police officer and placed on probation after a plea deal. So the reason I'm talking about this story is because his girlfriend has also been arrested in the case of is charged with obstruction of justice and accessory after the fact to attempted first-degree murder of a police officer. Now, folk out in Baton Rouge, the community leaders out in Baton Rouge are saying that this young lady is being charged, I guess, in unison with her boyfriend just because of that relationship, apparently, because she's the one that actually called the police and informed them that this thing took place. So I'm not certain why she would be charged with this crime. If she made the phone call, I'm not certain why she's been charged. So that's why I wanted to talk about it here. Maybe it can elevate the conversation, put more eyes on it so that we can ensure that not only due process is followed, but that the law is followed to ensure that she doesn't get charged with something unnecessarily because of her proximity or relationship to the person who actually is charged with committing the crime. Because also, too, it's not about not believing police officers, but let's just be real here. They fill out the police report, so it's going to say what they said it said, right? And so we need to make certain that that the more eyes, the better. Because if this man actually did what he's alleged to have done, then he needs to face whatever charges that align with his actions. But to have her charged, I'm not understanding why, because the article doesn't say why. And again, and
there's a good reason why the article doesn't say why, because it's based on the police report.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what I'm saying. So I just don't understand why she's been charged with if she's the one that made the actual call and she's the one that is given this information to help them, in essence, help them with the case or to make certain that she's not caught up in the case. then I don't understand why. And that's another thing I have a issue with too. Will, it's like who penalizes those in positions of power when they are untruthful about circumstances that lead to the arrest of certain individuals and the unfortunate incarceration of individuals? Because again, I've worked on several cases in situations where the police report or the police press conference does not align with body camera footage or camera footage from a pedestrian or something of that nature. So who holds the police or systems accountable when they're not being truthful in their professional responsibility or their oath of office? How does that work, right? So that's the question. And also too, when this man, they're alleging that he ran over a police officer. Absolutely, we do not want that happening. That is not something by any stretch of the imagination that should be going on. But we know that they became physical with him, even tasing him, which brings me to the conversation we were having in your absence about the assassination of governmental officials at their homes. This white man stalked them. He had a hit list. He did surveillance, like to see their comings and goings, to know when they would be home.
That's right.
He literally went up and knocked on the door and identified himself as a police officer, which got them to open the door. And the woman, the elected official, the female, she was murdered. Her husband was too, but the male official survived. He and his wife survived, but they were just four of a continuum of people who he had.
List of about 70 people.
Yeah, but he wasn't, they didn't use force to arrest him. He wasn't tased or anything, and he actually murdered people. So that always brings me back to the question of protocol. Like, is there a standard operating procedure for police when they are forced with these sorts of issues? Because again, making contact with police officers, whether with your body or with your vehicle, is absolutely not going to be tolerated. Those people are already in heavy, hard jobs. They don't need to be made, their jobs don't need to be made hard by some vendetta that a civilian has because they just don't like police. And it's not that we don't like police, we don't like bad policing.
Right.
So I want to be clear about that. This officer seems to have just been doing his official duties and he was hit with the vehicle. I still want to know, what is the standard operating procedure for police officers when they're not in imminent danger, when you're just trying to effectuate an arrest? Like, do you have to use force? Do you have to tase people? Because clearly this guy that went to these people's homes and just gunned them down, I mean, he just was so politely, did just not a scratch on him. He wasn't hit. And then while you were gone too, I was talking about a video of another white man who was actually beating police officers, like swinging on them, punching on them, beating them. It was like 3 of them, and he was just manhandling them. Nobody pulled out a baton, nobody pulled out a taser, nobody drew their service weapon. And he was physically punching them down and was allowed to run away. And we've seen case after case of men being shot dead because they fled police. So what is the standard operating procedure for police when they come in contact with someone who's maybe been accused of killing folk?
Right.
They know to have made
Suspected.
So what's the standard operating procedure? I really want to know these things because, you know, folk always like to act like, you know, we're just picking out, you know, no, we're talking about things that are in the news, in stories time after time again. It's been 10 years since that boy went into that church and prayed with those people and executed them. The 10-year, you know, memoriam of that just happened. And we remember they took him to Burger King. You know, he didn't get manhandled. He didn't get tased. He didn't get shot. But we see Mike Brown. We see Philando Castile. We see Tamar Rice. You know, we see Trayvon Martin, which he didn't get killed by police. But the police 911 dispatcher told this man not to pursue that child.
Right.
And in their apprehension of him for killing someone, he didn't get manhandled by police, tased, beat with a baton, right? Let's not even go as far as Rodney King, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or even the young man who started this whole movement of Black Lives Matter, who they continue to malign like he was some sort of drug-addicted maniac that Derek Chauvin did not kill, that the drugs killed him. So again, what is the standard operating procedure?
Right. Well,
because there are too many cases whereby we see these things, and nothing truly happens depending on your race. So let's just be clear here. Good morning, Jason. Welcome to the Good Morning Show.
Good morning. Good morning.
How you doing?
Good morning.
I'm doing real good. How you guys are doing? I wanted to add to that. I never forget talking to Cedric one day, Richmond, and I threw something at him. I was a Jefferson Parish firefighter for 10 years. And one thing a lot of police officers have in common that I'm so surprised it never came up, a lot of police officers are on steroids. Whenever I see these videos and I see the anger come from a lot of these police officers, and I know because I worked out with a lot of them, I am so surprised it's not standard procedure. Whenever a police officer have anything happen in the field, they're not tested for steroids. And the reason I say that is, once I got out of the fire system, I got into the trucking industry. I own an 18-wheeler. If I have a fender bender, lawyers is coming in at the accident spot. So I always ask, even when I talk to Cedric, I always ask, why isn't it these police officers are not being drug tested and see if they're on steroids? Because all of us know when you on steroids, your anger go from 1 to 100 in a snap of a second, especially if you're dealing with people you're already scared of. You know, and that's one thing I always threw out there. Another thing I'm going to throw out there is, even with me owning this truck, why is it police officers don't have to carry their own liability insurance?
That's a good point.
In case they make a mistake. My wife is a nurse. She has to have it. I own a truck. I have to have $1 million coverage. I have to cover my behind. A doctor has to have it. Malpractice lawsuit. Why don't police officers have to have insurance? Liability insurance. I guarantee you things will stop happening because we all know the insurance company will root out every bad police officer if they have to pay money. We know this. Why police officers don't have to carry liability insurance. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Jason. I mean, that's a good point because it also goes back
Excellent
to
point. Excellent
it
point.
also goes back to this qualified immunity conversation that is happening. You know, there should not be federal or state protections for bad officers who act outside of the scope of their job. If you're using force that's not dictated by standard operating procedures, then that means you are doing so outside of the bounds of your protection. And so if that is happening, then why do you get to be covered? Or why do the taxpayers have to continue paying out money for folks who act, outside of the confines of what they're supposed to be doing? So to me, that should eliminate your protection. If you're not following protocol, if you're outside of what the law says you can do, then why are we still protecting bad officers? And that's all I'm saying. And I mean, and that goes for the officers out of Memphis as well. That you should not have any protections if you do something to a civilian that does not align with your role as a police officer. And to me, and I'm going to continue saying this, if we all use our work, whatever lane we work in, to first do no harm to people, that's an oath that doctors have to take. It should be anybody that interfaces with civilians, public people who don't know what your expertise are, because the police officer has all of the power on their side because they have the system on their side. They have all of the weapons. They have backup. They have all of that. So why is it that you have all of that and you still get to do wrong to a person who is powerless, and then you're protected with our money when you do wrong to that person? Something about that structure has to change. And this is just yet another case out of Baton Rouge where this young lady, the article says she made the phone call, gave them the description of the car and everything, but she's now being charged. And I would like to know why. T-Bone, I see you on the line. We have to go to break. When we come back, we're going to continue to talk about it. I'm going to take your call on the other side, T-Bone. This is WBOK 1230 AM. What New Orleans is talking about
all day long.
Welcome back, Will.
Wednesday morning. I'm Daryl Forges with WDSU News, and here's your headlines. The man convicted of shooting spree that killed 3 people back in 2019 will be sentenced today. Sean Barrett was convicted on multiple murder charges for shooting at drivers in East Jefferson during a 2-week span on June of 2019. 3 men were killed in 2 of those shootings. Barrett's defense argued he wasn't mentally competent, but jurors didn't buy it and found him guilty. Police are still searching for escaped inmates Antoine Massey and Derek Groves. They're the 2 men still on the run after 10 inmates broke out of Orleans Parish Jail 1 month ago. This week, 2 New Orleans homes were searched, one uptown and one in the Lower Ninth Ward. We're told investigators were looking for Derek Groves, who was already convicted of murder before the escape and hasn't been heard from since. But Massey has been more vocal, even posting videos on social media claiming that he's innocent. A $50,000 reward per each inmate is being offered for any information that can lead to their arrest. Remember, you can call your tip into Crime Stoppers anonymously at 504-822-1111. And heads up for those living and working in New Orleans East. Some of you will experience water outages throughout the morning. This is for residents on Camellia Street and Ransom Street. The Sewerage and Water Board says their contractor will test water closures while fixing valves. It's happening at 8 a.m. and should be completed by noon. I'm Daryl Forges, and that's your headlines for WBOK. Have a great day.
This is the Bloomberg Black Business Beat, brought to you by FidelityWealthManagement.com. The National Black Farmers Association has been pushing for change since the 1980s.
We were organized to help eradicate discrimination at government agencies and state, federal levels. And we've been doing this kind of work for a very, very long time.
That's National Black Farmers Association founder and president John Boyd. Today, he says farmers are facing a new kind of adversity, stemming from the Trump administration's tariff policies.
Many Americans don't know that farmers are price takers. We're not price givers. So my price is based on the market.
Market volatility surrounding tariff uncertainty is impacting almost every industry, including farmers. I'm Bloomberg's Justin Milliner on the Black Business Beat.
Working as a dedicated Fidelity advisor, I always ask, what's important to you? I'll look at those priorities and goals alongside your full financial picture to build a comprehensive plan designed to help grow and protect your wealth. With proactive portfolio insights and an eye on taxes, I'm here to help you make the most of your money. I'm Laura Maxwell, and I'm a dedicated Fidelity advisor. Learn more at fidelity.com/wealth. Investment minimums apply. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE, SIPC.
Now more than ever, Lowe's knows you don't just want a low price, you want the lowest price. And with our lowest price guarantee, you can count on us for competitive prices on all your home improvement projects. If you find a qualifying lower price somewhere else on the same item, we'll match it. Lowe's, we help, you save. Price match applies to same item, current price at qualifying retailers. Exclusions and terms apply. Learn how we'll match price at lowes.com/lowest price guarantee.
Connect with NOLA Public Schools. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and X for the latest updates. Sign up for District Digest, our official newsletter where we share district achievements, celebrate student successes, and keep you informed about our vision of providing a high-quality education. And don't miss our school board meetings. Watch in person or live stream on YouTube. Stay informed, stay engaged. Visit NOLAPublicSchools.com today. Again, that's NOLAPublicSchools.com.
Hey, New Orleans, look for important changes to your natural gas service. This summer, Delta Utilities takes over for Entergy Gas with a Louisiana-born, Louisiana-based approach to safe, clean, reliable natural gas. No interruptions or rate changes due to the transition, just dependable service and modernized technology to keep you running smoothly. Get to know us at deltautilities.com and stay tuned for more later this summer. Delta Utilities, focused on natural gas, committed to New Orleans.
Making a difference in the community. WBOK 1230 AM.
Good morning, Wake Up.
The Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
On WBOK.
And we are back. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome welcome back to the Good Morning Show. I'm your host, Dr. Ashanta Wyatt. Shout out to my super producer, finger point button pushing, Nyron Sanders,
Purple
and also
Nyron.
my co-host, Will Sutton. Hey, Will.
Good morning, good morning.
We're going to go straight to the phone lines. T-Bone, good morning. Welcome to the Good Morning Show.
Good morning. I'm sorry if I sound like I'm a little jumbled, but I'm trying to get things together to get the family out. But I want to pass this along. Has it occurred to anybody that they're all rolling out looking the exact same? Sunglasses, long handkerchief over their mouth, baseball cap. Now, I don't know the name of the group offhand right now, but there was a news article that came out a couple of weeks ago about a white Christian nationalist group who are dressing with this MO. I forgot what they were calling themselves, but instead of wearing a white sheet with the two holes in it, that is their uniform. And if you look at any news report with these ICE agents who are arresting these politicians, these officials, that's how they're dressed. These people are being commanded to dress like this, and they're being commanded to arrest these officials. They are targeting these people. If you don't see it for what it is, how are you going to know what to deal with?
T-Bone.
That's what's going on here.
T-Bone, do you think all of them are really ICE agents?
No. And that's what I was about to allude to. They are not all ICE agents. I think some of them have mixed in. I don't even think they were even deputized. I think some of them belong to that group, and I think that they're using extreme prejudice towards these people. And that last mayoral candidate for mayor, when you look at that report, the way they took him down, there's about 2 or 3 of them dressed just like that. Some other ones that was pushing the press back, who was trying to record it. You understand?
Yeah.
Every time you see a major arrest, all of them look like that. And you've never seen police officials dressed like that before. The only time you see somebody that's masked is SWAT, and they're going into action. It's not standing there waiting on something to happen. I mean, think about this a second, y'all. Think.
Well, T-Bone, I don't know if you've been listening to the show. We've been talking here about the January 6th insurrectionists who have been brought into the ICE agency to work on behalf of the government. And that's been brought up in Senate hearings as well. And Kristi Noem has not denied that this is the case, and which is why governmental officials and civilians alike are pushing back against the idea that they could be covered from head to toe. You can't identify them. And the government pushed back and said, well, they're covered that way because people are doxing them or, they're posing a threat to their families. But that's not necessarily the case. They're covering them because they know that they're employing Proud Boys and members of these white Christian nationalist organizations to work on behalf of the government. That's what's going on.
Yeah, but if somebody starts fighting back, then what?
Absolutely. That's a valid question, because here's the other thing that I'm really, really worried about. They're passing this law all across this country. Louisiana is doing it. It's happening in Florida. They're passing this law whereby if folk are protesting, the governor in Florida literally did a thing on social media and said that they have the authority, if they feel threatened, to use their vehicle to run you down. And we know that was on the floor here in the state of Louisiana. That's one of the things that they're giving them the power to do. So my question would be, if a vehicle is plowing towards individuals and they're armed, can we then take out our legally owned weapon and shoot them dead? Because I can tell you right now, that's what people like me gonna do, because I'm not gonna let you run me down with no vehicle. I'm just gonna say that right now. Because
that's
what's gonna happen. That's what's gonna happen, because you don't get to, especially in a city like New Orleans, where we are accustomed to galvanizing in the streets, whether it be second lines or whether it be peaceful protests. That is our constitutional right to be able to gather and push back against a government that is not working for its people. And what our government is saying is that if you can say, just say it. You don't have to actually be in danger. If you can articulate that you felt threatened and your only means of escaping was to put the pedal to the metal and run folk down, they're empowering them to do that here. And I'm going to tell you right now, I legally carry, and I'm always at a protest. I'm not going to let anybody just run over me. That's not going to happen. So what happens then when people push back? What happens?
And that goes to what I said before. We not them same dudes.
Yeah.
From the civil rights movement. We're not going to turn a cheek. And by the same token, they try to run over somebody at a second line. You don't know who's going to pull something.
Right.
Because I know them dudes is carrying.
Absolutely.
So they could try us if they want. But it ain't going to end good.
But T-Bone, I actually believe that this government is forcing this country into a war. They want a war.
Yeah.
Because I think in his opinion, war protects him. He wants war.
I've said this from the beginning. He wants a civil war.
Yep.
Because he wants all of these different people to die off so that then he can say, oh, I brought order back. No, you didn't. You brought chaos. You're destroying a democracy.
And not just a civil war, T-Bone. He wants war. He wants to actually be able to have this country embedded in a war, because we do know there's a different set of powers that come into play when the country is at war. And he knows exactly what he's doing. And all of these rich, wealthy white men who fund this insanity, they know what's going on. You know, and so for me, I wasn't really shocked, but did you hear that the guy that's that runs Uber, he's now, fully pledging his allegiance to Trump and whatever Trump wants to do. The guy that's with PayPal, fully pledging their allegiance to Trump and whatever Trump wants to do. And you're seeing all of the people he put in positions of power go before the Senate and say the same thing. We are working at the pleasure of the president, and whatever the president wants. That's basically their script. It's not about the Constitution. It's not about laws. It's about what he wants.
I'm going to say it again. DNC, this is your time to stand up and get back control. We need to vote these other people out.
Yeah.
We can't continue to let this happen, because when we have an opposing force in the legislature, he won't be able to do all this foolishness. Yeah. Somebody will be able to stand up to him. Now, we can't do anything about the Supreme Court, unfortunately, but we can do something about that. That's my last word.
Thank you, T-Bone. I appreciate you.
All right.
Have a good one.
Well, there are things you can do about the Supreme Court. I mean, and part of that is, yes, look toward the next presidential election and have someone in the seat who's going to appoint some folks who don't think the way some of these justices do. But meanwhile, there are other courts, federal courts, state courts, that have an impact on our lives more frequently. And that's one of the things that we can do. I mean, we can file cases. We can support the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. We can support Power Coalition when they are lobbying for changes in law, local law in the city or the parishes. We can do that with the state legislature, and we can do that with Congress as well. But we can also file lawsuits. I mean, one of the things is that people can say, well, these are the rules. So that isn't covered in this rule. This isn't covered in this law. Well, make a new law, expand that law. So, and that's where we come in. I mean, we can say there's a hole. Thank you for fixing this, but it didn't go far enough, and we need to make it more complete. We need to fight back when there are things like a governor in a state saying, it's okay if the protesters are in your way and you feel unsafe.
Will, we did fight back. We had our legislators on to talk about it. They were on the floor pushing back against it. And what did it do? Because we don't have the numbers. It still was able to.
But we've got to keep the voices.
But here's my thing, and I'm very serious about this, because this is a communal city. everything happens in the streets in New Orleans, right? A second line can pop up for whatever reason, no reason at all. This is the culture of this community. And I believe that they use the culture to inform this law. This is why they did it. And so for me, I'm telling you right now, there are people who are in the work, who are actually in the work in protection of the people who do the work. And if a vehicle is coming toward people who are congregated to push back against the way our government is treating us, that's going to start a war, because nobody's going to just stand by and watch you plow people down.
Right.
I could almost guarantee you they will not stand by and watch that happen, and especially when we've lived through something like what happened on Bourbon Street.
Yeah.
Right? That's not everybody's hyper vigilant now. And now that you're openly telling folk that they can plow through people, that's going to make folk who are not necessarily looking for trouble to be looking out for their safety. And again, there are legal gun owners, and there are people who going to carry guns no matter what the law says.
Right.
And this is not going to go well in this city. I could almost guarantee you that. Good morning, John. Welcome to the Good Morning Show.
Hey, good morning, and lucky to catch you again. When you're talking and what you're saying is how I used to talk a while back, and it was kind of looked at as kind of, far in left field about, civil war and internal unrest and things like that. But I think the real civil war is going to really kick off when the people who support this administration find out that what they've practiced and perfected on black people, they've now taken it on the road, and now they're doing it to them.
Yeah.
And sooner or later, that's going to be, because that's going to be like the ultimate betrayal. Okay. And from there, things are just going to go sideways. Yeah. And I can really see it. Also, a lot of other things I talked about, that they are outside agitators like the George Soros and different people like that. So you got the OGS, OCs, and it's another national groups of globalists that have different agendas, and they oppose one another. You look at all these people that are coming into this country. Everybody ain't coming here just looking for a better life. You can almost see some of these young, because if you notice the last year or so, it's been a lot of young, single, military-age men between the ages of about 19 and 30. Fit young men. No women and children with them. And, it's just like when the George Floyd things were going on. This is why blacks need to stay out of all of these protests. Another main reason, because I was watching it on TV, and I started seeing these little weird anarchist type people mixing in. And that's when I began to call my little cousins that lived in different parts of the country. So I said, get your black A out of the street. I said, them people will create a situation where they can get you killed or arrested.
Yeah.
Dropping off pallets of this. And I say another thing, those people are supported and protected. They go to jail tonight, by 12 noon tomorrow, they're out. I say your black behind got to see the judge, then you got to face charges. These people operate differently. They have different agendas. Now, as far as the Democratic Party, like I said before, I think if they're going to get back into power, and if the Republicans are going to survive, they're going to have to go back how it was in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, where it's more central. Some people are more right. Some people are a little more conservative. Like I said about this other stuff here, people have for a long time to accept that people like same sex, okay? People don't even trip on that no more. But like I said before, and I said what I said because I heard that little comment when I said what I said before, but I didn't have time to respond to it. People are not going to accept if you standing there 6'2", hanging and swinging and trying to convince me you're a man. Now, if you like the same, cool. But you see where I'm going is don't come with the crazy stuff.
What comment you talking about, John?
Huh?
Which comment are you referring to?
I just mentioned that about, some of the extremes of the Democrats that kind of cause a meltdown, just like the extremes of the Republicans right now. Mm-hmm. So I'd say after this regime, I think people are going to go back, just like, what's his name, John McCain. What I liked about him, even though he was a Republican, but he was the last of the sensible Republicans. You could talk to him. You can negotiate. And he was willing to give up some things and see it your way if you were willing to give up some things and meet in the middle. That's the only way things can function.
Which is why he was attacked by Trump over and over and over.
Yeah.
John, are you referencing a comment that one of us made or somebody else?
No, I had made a while back about some of the extremes of the Democrats and their neglecting of their base, which is us, and prioritize other groups. See what Brandon Johnson did up there in Chicago with putting all these resources toward illegal people, and black folks are going out on the street and other folks are going out, and now the city of Chicago has a deficit of over $1 billion, and he's trying to borrow money, and which the people are going to have to pay off for the next 20 years and stuff. This is one of the few times when you do something like that as a black person. I honestly can say I don't mind seeing a black man going to jail for that. I really don't.
All right, I appreciate you, John. I gotta catch Aaron. I appreciate you so much. Good morning, Aaron. Welcome to the Good Morning Show.
Good morning. How y'all doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
Morning.
First thing, first morning. Welcome back, brother.
Thank you.
First, shouts out to the Fatherhood Roundtable, People's Political Party, and the Hood People Gun Club. Two things, as it relates to these rogue police officers out here. Nobody's advocating violence. That's number one. However, there are some of us who are not going to continue to sit around and allow these people to continue to play in our face. And when I say these people, I'm talking about these rogue police officers. When I sit back and look at Ms. Mona, how she has to drive way from Florida to come over here to Louisiana, and when I say Ms. Mona, that's the mother of Ronald Green. Now these people done lynched her son. First of all, she had the governor, a Democratic governor at that, say her son was killed because his car ran off the road and ran into a tree, only to do an investigation and find out that that wasn't the case. Then the video magically appears 2 years later. To see how this woman come away from Florida and have to come to Louisiana and watch these police officers, these rogue police officers, constantly laugh in this woman's face after they did a real injustice to her son. Listen, people is not going to continue to pull up with things like that, which is why Rodney Hinton done what he done. The second thing, as it relates to these protests and demonstrations and things like that, as people that I know that organize these things, I'm not going to say it like that, people who I know that organize these things, we have lawyers and everything that be in the midst of these protests and demonstrations. Also, if they feel threatened and they feel the urge to run over us, Louisiana and Florida is stand your ground state. So just like they feel threatened, if I feel threatened, I'm going to do what I have to do to make sure I protect myself and the people that I'm protecting, period. That's all I wanted to say.
I appreciate you, brother. Have a blessed one.
Yeah,
listen,
right.
I know for sure. I know for sure when I'm out on the streets and I'm actually in my protest bag, I know that I'm well protected. I have no problem standing firm on what I'm supposed to be doing because I know they got people surrounding me that's going to make sure I'm safe. But make no mistake, I can make sure I'm safe too. Please believe. So these things have to be talked about because I just do not understand how a law such as that can be allowed to prevail when you know that folk are going to take advantage of that and just simply use this, I felt threatened. Because if I see a crowd of people protesting, there are a multitude of ways I can go a different direction as to not have to come in contact with these people. Some of these people are going to put themselves in the way of these protests or in, and let's talk about bad actors too. When the government knows that you're protesting and you're out there trying to fight against injustice, they plant people in protest to agitate situations. I was watching the footage of what was happening in L.A. I saw uniformed police officers damaging vehicles. Uniformed police officers damaging vehicles. I saw that with my own eyes. Right? Uniformed police officers agitating situations because that's what they want to do so that they can feel justified in doing what they feel like doing, what they're going out there to do. Because they're not going out there to keep the peace. They're going out there to agitate a situation, to be able to do what they want to do under the guise of serving and protecting. And that's the scary part.
I saw one of them alleging that a news reporter for one of the networks touched him, and there was nothing in the video.
No touch, and it was on video.
Anything.
Yes.
It was freaking live. It was recorded, and he's saying, you touched me, and it's like, that did not happen. And in another case, there was an officer who was holding his gun one way. There was a woman reporter doing a live, he turns his gun, points it at her, and shoots. I mean, rubber bullet, but
still, nonetheless, rubber bullets.
He clearly turned his gun and aimed it. That's ridiculous.
And but for footage in those instances, we would just have what he said happen, right?
Right.
And so
that's not what happened.
That's the stuff that
Somebody
we have to
else
push back against. We have to go to break, y'all. When we come back, we're going to continue talking about it. At the 8 o'clock hour, we're going to hear from Delta Utilities CEO Tim Poche and Vice President of Marketing Communications, Sarah Porteous. So y'all stay with us right here, WBOK 1230 AM, what New Orleans is talking about.
All day long.
Tune in to The Monitor's Mic, where we talk about oversight, policing, and you. Hosted by the Office of Independent Police Monitor, we're here to shine a light on policing issues that matter, from real-time policing updates to in-depth interviews. Every Friday at noon on WBOK.
The New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation is the nonprofit organization that owns the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival, presented by Shell. With the funds generated from Jazz Fest, the foundation invests in Louisiana communities through economic development, cultural enrichment, and free educational programs. To learn more about the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation, please visit us at www.jazzandheritage.org.
Visit DePaul's new Algiers Health Center at 2801 General de Gaulle Drive to receive primary and preventive care for both adults and children. Services also include behavioral health, imaging, and on-site pharmacy, vision, Medicaid enrollment assistance, and more. For appointments, visit DePaulCommunityHealthCenters.org or call 504-207-3060.
Welcome to Liberty Bank and Trust, where your financial journey transforms communities. Since 1972, our customized banking solutions power your dreams and fuel your community growth. Every dollar you invest with us circles back to empower more people, ensuring opportunities for generations. Join us at Liberty Bank. Together, we empower possibility. Visit libertybank.net to start banking with purpose. Liberty Bank, there's freedom here.
Good morning, Wake Up.
The Good Morning Show. Good morning. On WBOK.
Welcome back to the Good Morning Show. I'm your host, Dr. Ashanta White. Shout out to my co-host, D. Will Sutton, who just celebrated his 70th birthday. Y'all tell Will happy birthday in the chat. And shout out to my producer, too. I just left my seat, and he looked at me like, where you going?
Where you going?
I wasn't going nowhere, sir. I wasn't going nowhere. But speaking of things we can do as it relates to laws that are being created and the way governmental officials are operating, this is what you could do, y'all. We have an election coming up. In this October, we have an election. There's a mayoral election that is happening in the city of New Orleans, and other city offices that are up for election are as follows: the assessor, the coroner, the sheriff, city council, and civil and criminal court clerks. Are there some judgeships up as well, Will?
There should be.
I know. I believe so, but I don't want to misspeak because I'm reading it directly from ballot the site that talks about the ballot. And I don't want to get it wrong, but I know there are people listening. I know y'all have my phone number, so just text me and let me know if I missed any office, or you can call 504-582-9422. But I want to say that again: we have mayoral elections, and then we have assessor, coroner, sheriff, city council, and civil and criminal court clerks. The qualifying period is July 9th through the 11th. Voter registration deadlines in person or by mail is September 10th, 2025. And online, the national holiday, my birthday, September 20th, 2025, is the deadline to register online. Early voting starts September 27th to October 4th, excluding Sunday, September 28th. Absentee ballot request deadline is October 7th by 4:30. Absentee ballot return deadline is October 10th by 4:30. And the election day is October 11th, 2025, with polls opening at 7 a.m. and closing at 8 p.m. Should a runoff election be necessary, it will be held on November 15th, 2025 for the top 2 candidates. So please understand that we are not powerless, people. The midterm elections are going to have consequences. We need to show up and show out at the ballot so that we can have our voices be heard. There's not just a mayoral race going on. It's not just about a sheriff race that's going on. You have the power to elect an assessor, the coroner, your city council, and civil and criminal court clerks. Please and be mindful that the names you're hearing that are out there in the atmosphere may not be the only contenders. So look for that qualifying period, July 9th through the 11th. And then at that point, you'll know the field will be set. Unless somebody's candidacy is challenged, those will be the people who will be vying for your vote. And we need to show up and show out. Early voting starts September 27th and ends October 4th, excluding Sunday, September 24th. And election day, I don't, I'm one of those people, Will, that used to wait till election day. I'm not going to lie. I just used to like to do it on election day. But when your life is set up the way my life is, you have to take advantage of early voting. I've started to do that in the last couple elections, going to the ballot box early so that I can get it out the way. But if you are like I used to be, then election day is October 11th.
So let me tell you this quick story. Fall election.
Yeah.
Presidential election. Had a friend up in northern Louisiana who was a diehard Republican, black Republican, all his life. Trump turned him off. He continued to be a Republican, but despised Trump. Made the turn, became a Democrat, registered Democrat. Planned to vote for Kamala Harris.
Oh, you told me this story.
And he died.
You told me this story, yeah.
You don't know.
Yeah.
You
so what
have
Will is
that
saying,
opportunity.
What Will is saying,
if you have that opportunity,
take advantage of the September 27th to October 4th window, because God forbid something happens that keeps you from casting your ballot. And so again, this election is huge for the city of New Orleans, and we need to show up in mass numbers. And shout out to New Orleans East, because what I do know is, I'm not psychic or anything, but them people show up to the polls for every election. I mean, they could have a shoe tying contest on the ballot. The East gonna show up to vote. So what I'm saying is, be more like the East and get up and vote. Because, you hear all that negative stuff about the East, but one thing they leave out the conversation is you can't win nothing in the city of New Orleans unless you go see them people out there in the East. So make certain that you get up and do your civic duty. The qualifying period, again, is July 9th through the 11th. We'll know who our candidates are then. Barring any challenge to anybody's candidacy, those will be the people vying for your vote, not just the folk who we kind of already know who have been campaigning already. And is there some rule against that too, Will? Because I've been hearing folks say that they're campaigning early. Like, what does that even mean?
No.
Early?
There's no rule on that. You can campaign. Well, let's just look at presidential campaigns.
Yeah.
There are people campaigning now.
Yeah.
For president.
They might not be coming out saying I'm a candidate, but they definitely
But while they're
campaigning.
traveling the hour, never been the hour before in their life. Never been the hour before in their life.
Not
and they're
in
showing
Iowa,
up. They're showing up
caucus.
for 20 people eating some chicken. Because they're trying to get their name out there. That's what they're doing.
I'm just saying. But listen, I really want us to tap into this election. So please go to the Secretary of State's website. Make certain that your voter registration is up to date. Make certain that you have not been purged from the records, because we do know that happens as well. So continue to check on your voter status.
Especially if you have not been voting.
Yeah.
So maybe you used to vote.
Yeah.
But you haven't been. For whatever reason, you may have been purged. So you need to make sure. And though there's time, I mean, you can register as late as September 10th for the fall election.
Yeah.
But don't.
But let me tell you what else we're going to do here. I am going to be moderating a candidate forum for all of these seats, and we're going to do it at Dillard University. What we're going to do is create a link so that all of our listening audience, whether you listen online in your car, on one of the platforms, you can submit your question for the candidates, because I'm a moderator of the event, and I'm going to tell you why I'm doing this so that we can be very transparent here. And I'm going to talk about these elections from this day forward. So please don't get tired of hearing about it. But we're going to have you to submit questions, because Oliver O.T. Thomas was a host here, and he's now a candidate. I want to make certain that we eliminate any appearance of bias, right? And this is what researchers do, right? You want to make certain that you account for bias. And so I don't want anybody saying, I created these questions, or I'm throwing questions to certain people that I'm not throwing to others. Well, our listening audience is going to create the questions. So as the moment that link is up, you'll have the ability to put questions into the link. We're going to pull your questions down. We're going to put them on paper, and we're going to put them in a box, and each candidate is going to pull their own question. So that way, I'm not asking the question. I'm just moderating this thing and making certain that the time is kept. Everybody, the decorum is in order. There won't be any shouting from the audience and things of that nature. We're going to run a well-oiled operation, but we want to eliminate any appearance of bias to ensure that every candidate has an equitable opportunity to shine at this event. So once that link is up, I want y'all to start pouring your questions into the link, and we're going to pull them down. We're going to put them on paper, and we're going to seal them. And each candidate is going to pull a question, unseal the question, read the question, answer the question. And the time doesn't start until the question is read and the candidate has the opportunity to start to answer. I don't want anyone saying WBOK showed bias, Dr. Wyatt showed bias, Will Sutton showed bias. We're not doing that here, because we're going to make certain that the public has access to these folk to get the questions that they want answered. And we don't want anybody having any questions about the process or the protocol in which we did this. So I don't let y'all know my strategy. And I'm going to talk about these elections from this day forward, because I do not want folk who listen in to say that they were not informed about what was on the ballot, who was on the ballot, when election is, when qualifying is, when the deadline to make certain that your ballot is turned in. We're going to give you that information here. We got to go to break, but when we come back, we'll hear from Delta Utilities CEO Tim Poche and Vice President of Marketing and Communications Sarah Porteous right here. WBOK 1230 AM, what New Orleans is talking about
all day long.
WBOK New Orleans. home of the Good Morning Show, 7 to 9 a.m. weekdays.
This news report is brought to you by New Schools for New Orleans.
New Schools for New Orleans is committed to keeping and finding great teachers for our students in Orleans Parish. If you or someone you know is interested in becoming a teacher for the 25-26 school year, let us help you. We've created the New Orleans Teacher Job Board, which is the official job platform of public schools in New Orleans. You can apply to any school in the city. Simply post your resume and provide information about yourself. Visit our website to learn more and apply. www.neworleansteacherjobboard.org.
I'm Tammy Eswick with BIN News Now. There may be no turning back hours after President Trump called for Iran's, quote, unconditional surrender. That country's supreme leader said in a social media post, in part, the battle begins. This comes as the White House is sending out a warning to travelers.
Not to travel to Israel or Iraq, and not to travel to Iran under any circumstances.
A Fox News report says the White House is considering strikes against Iran, a move that could push America straight into that war. According to Syracuse University and others, there are over 350,000 Black or African American active duty and reserve personnel in the military. Black Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson says he isn't backing down from threats that President Trump may target his city with militarized immigration enforcement. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Good morning, Wake Up.
The Good Morning Show. Good morning. On WBOK.
Welcome back to the Good Morning Show. I'm your host, Dr. Ashanta Wyatt. Shout out to my finger pointing, button pressing producer, Naira Sanders, and my co-host, the Will Sutton. Hey, Will.
Good morning, New
So
Orleans.
the last time our friends from Delta Utilities were here, we were talking to CEO Tim Poche and Vice President of Marketing and Communications, Sarah Porteous. Sarah is here, but we have a new one, Mr. Anthony Murdoch, Vice President of Customer Operations. Welcome to the Good Morning Show. How you doing?
Oh, well, good morning. Thank you.
We're glad to have you. We
Good
miss
morning.
you, Tim, wherever you are, but I'm sure Anthony is going to hold it down for you in your absence. And welcome back, Sarah. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having us.
So are there any updates you want to share with us prior to us jumping into the conversation from last time? Any updates since then?
Nothing new. We're moving along. We're getting closer to the time of transition, so we're really happy to be here to share some information about Delta Utilities.
Well, welcome back. So can you just tell us about Delta Utilities for our listening audience who probably did not get to hear from you the last time you were here? Who is Delta Utilities?
Yeah, so Delta Utilities is a Louisiana-born, New Orleans-based natural gas utility. We're really excited that our headquarters is right here in downtown New Orleans. We're going to be providing safe and reliable natural gas, and after a regulated regulatory process, an intensive regulatory process, we're going to be purchasing the natural gas assets from Entergy. That's going to happen next month. It's anticipated to happen next month, and we're very excited to be here in the community.
Is that's on track for July 1, or is it sometime in July?
It's expected to happen in July.
Okay. All right. So customers who are Entergy gas customers, what's the big change, or is there a big change?
Yeah, we're working very closely with Entergy to ensure that the transition is going to be seamless. And so that starts with the transition of natural gas service, which is going to happen automatically when the transition happens. So we're really focused on making sure that it's a very easy transition for our future customers.
And Anthony, as the Vice President of Customer Operations, is there any notifications going out to current Entergy gas customers to tell them about this transition that's happening from Entergy to Delta Utilities?
Yeah, we have a robust communication plan for the customers. It's informing them, hey, here's the timing of the change, what you can expect, what's happening automatically, and if there is anything that post-go live that you have to re-enroll in. There will be some things that customers have to re-enroll. For instance, if the customers were on an automatic payment plan and they were paying their bills automatically, they will need to sign up on our online profile and set that back up.
Okay. Well, yeah, just
All right.
Sure.
Okay, so re-enroll if you're on auto pay. If you've been paying your bill otherwise, no change, or?
Yeah.
If you've been paying your bill otherwise, you'll have a new address to send your bills to if you're mailing it by check. That will be included on your first bill. You'll see that new address there for the customers. If you were on your levelized payment plan, maybe you had your budget plan set up so that it was equal across the months, you will have to re-enroll in that program as well. And another one that I can think of at the top of my head is if you were a electronic bill customer, maybe paperless, and you wanted to get your bills email, you will re-enroll in that as well.
So, Mr. Murdoch, were you already like into the Entergy system and you're transferring over to Delta Utilities as well? Because you just seem so well informed. So were you already doing this kind of work?
So yeah, I've been in the gas industry for 20 plus years. Much of my time was in the DC metropolitan area with Washington Gas. And I also
so Will bought you back when he came back from Washington. That's what happened. So you came back with Will.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was a great stretch of a few days. Yeah.
Thank you, Will.
I know, right?
Right.
You're making those connections, Will. So in terms of technology, is anything changing in terms of the way that the customers were interfacing with Entergy technology-wise? Is anything changing with Delta Utilities?
I think that probably will equal the same. I think customers interacted with them on their either My Account platform, same difference for Delta Utilities, different URL, of course, however, same platform, and the telephone service. If you want to call us anytime between 7 to 7, Monday through Friday, same hours, you will do that as well.
7 to 7?
7
that
to
was
7.
always like that for Entergy?
That was always like that, I believe.
I just pay online. I don't do gas. I just do it that way. But so when I was talking to the CEO Tim Poche, one of the questions was why natural gas? And maybe Sarah, why is natural gas the way to go in terms of saving? Because I think it's more cost efficient. Is it?
Yeah, I think we talked a little bit about affordability. It's very important that people are able to get affordable energy. Natural gas is an affordable alternative. Louisiana families can actually save up to $1,100 a year if they use natural gas to dry their clothes, to heat their homes, and to cook their food. So I think it's very important that people understand that it is an affordable energy.
Yeah, and it doesn't sound like a lot. That's a lot for the average consumer.
Absolutely.
So, because you don't think about what you're overpaying until you realize what you could have saved, if that makes sense. What do you think?
Yeah, if you're saving $200 or $300, that's a lot.
It makes a difference.
So, it does. So, any idea how many of your soon-to-be customers pay online versus the electronic auto pay? I believe the number is somewhere over 100,000 customers that you'll have in the New Orleans.
So it's roughly about 50% that pay from an automated basis for customers that we're anticipating they will continue to pay that way.
Okay, all right. So they need to think about re-enrolling.
And I'm one of those people that So I think we're going to be very intentional about making sure that we notify people in different ways that they'll have to re-enroll in programs, particularly auto pay. So in addition to a welcome letter, customers are going to get instructions with their first bill. We'll also be doing a postcard to customers who are set up with auto pay with Entergy, just as an extra reminder that this is a step you're going to have to take to continue that service.
So Sarah, let's talk about those of us who are hesitant to change. Because, folk have been Entergy customers. That's like a generational thing. Mm-hmm. I had Cox because my mama had Cox. That's what, and so what happens or what conversations are you guys having with those customers who are just kind of like not wanting to embrace the idea of losing something or entity that they've been kind of married to for quite a long time?
Yeah, I think it's a good point. Change is hard of any kind for anybody. So customers are still going to have Entergy for their electric service, and then they're going to have Delta Utilities for their natural gas service. So it's a shift in terms of who will be providing natural gas, but they will still be served by Entergy for electric service. I think they're going to get a utility that's going to have modern technology. Anthony talked about this a little bit, which I think is really important. Legacy systems, we talked about this the last time I was here. It's a real challenge for utilities. And because we're building from the ground up, everything is cloud-based. Customers aren't ever going to have to deal with costly upgrades to the system. We're also going to have customer-centric features like Track My Technician. So if somebody puts in a call for a service technician to come out, they're going to be able to better anticipate when that service technician is going to arrive. So I think we're introducing a lot of things that are going to be very customer friendly that people will come to appreciate.
One of the things that came up with City Council is that, of course, there are more electric power outages, but there are gas outages. And the idea of the energy system has designated council district staff people so that it can be more refined, not just report to the city, but each district. Have you all gotten to the place yet where you can do that, or are you going to take a different approach?
Yeah, we're going to take a similar approach. I think it's important that we have somebody that will be connected to each council member that can help to resolve issues in real time. So we are going to follow that same approach. The other thing I would say, natural gas is incredibly resilient. Our infrastructure is underground, and that helps us to be able to continue to provide reliable service during hurricanes and other storm events.
And I wanna pull a question, but I believe we answered it, but maybe she missed the answer to it. She's asking, so is she going to have a bill from Delta for her gas and a bill from Entergy for her electric?
Yes, it's a good question. So yes, once the transition happens, customers are going to continue to receive a bill from Entergy for their electric service, and then they'll have a separate bill from Delta Utilities for their natural gas service.
And can we talk, because we just had this conversation, but for the benefit of the folk who are listening in right now, is Delta going to also expand employment opportunities for our citizens around our state? Is that also happening here with this transition?
Yeah.
Yes, and many of those employees here are working in our customer service area. We have hired over, well over 40 agents to be on the phones and working in our back offices, and we're well on our way to hiring more than 200 employees new for New Orleans.
That is a good thing to hear. And I know the other thing for folk who are listening, are we to anticipate higher rates because when change happens, people do business differently. Are we going to be in a position where we're paying more for our utilities if we're going with Delta as opposed to what we had with Entergy?
And is that immediate or over time?
Yeah, there are going to be no changes to base rates due to this transition. I think it's important that people understand that. We are regulated in the same way that Entergy is regulated by the New Orleans City Council here in New Orleans. So any future rate changes would require the same public regulatory process that people are used to experiencing now.
Yeah, and I don't want any question to feel like it's not a good question. That's why I pull questions from the chat, and that's a question that folk are having, and it's good to have the information so that they can have the clarity. But one of the things that I do want to talk about that I don't think we talked about, which is a wonderful thing that you guys are doing, is your Delta Utilities Foundation. Can you talk to us about that, Sarah?
Yeah, I'm very excited about this. We're in the process of developing a foundation so that we can support initiatives in the communities that we serve. Our core values, safety and reliability, of course, but also being able to make an impact in the communities that we serve. And the foundation is going to be one way that we do that. So we're hoping to be able to accept grant applications in the fall around projects that focus on community vitality and environmental stewardship.
That's good to hear for a number of reasons, because I think especially when you're a new entity and you're coming into a community, ways to improve community or give back to community is how you create that immediate buy-in because as we said, change is hard. But we do know that when we had Entergy for our gas services, now the transition is happening, we still have them for electric. They also are very community-centered as well.
They are.
And so it's good to know that that's a pillar of what you guys do in terms of your mission and vision for your organization. And please come back once you launch the foundation.
Absolutely.
So that we can talk about it and how folks can apply for grants and what the criteria is, because that too is important.
So along those lines, are there things that, I hear you, it's not there yet. You're in the process of developing it. But for those who are interested and curious, can they go to the Delta Utilities website and then look for that information to come? Or is there going to be another website or place where they can go and get information so they can start thinking and preparing for the opportunity?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that. So they can go to the deltautilities.com website now, and there's a Supporting Our Communities page, which has some general information about the foundation. And they can continue to check in there. And obviously, we will publicize it once we're ready to launch the foundation. But there is definitely some information there already that people can take a look at.
And some customers do like the idea of walking into a door and seeing someone to discuss, hopefully, some thank yous as well as complaints or concerns. But you'll have 2 or 3 locations?
Yes, we'll have 2 locations that they can walk into to do just that. Talk to the customer service reps. One that they're very familiar with. We'll co-locate with the Energy Building on Canal Street. The other will be on the West Bank, and that is part of Liberty.
I was waiting for that. I knew it.
West
Shout out to the West Bank. So that's good to hear, Anthony.
Right, so that's on General de Gaulle?
General de Gaulle, yes.
Okay.
So there's another question, and this relates to employment. It says beyond customer service opportunities, because we did speak about our customer service reps. Will there be any opportunity for recruitment for high-paying executive jobs?
Yes, I think if you go to our website now, you will see several jobs posted, and they span the gamut of the entire utility itself. Anything from IT and all levels of all levels of employment, not just the customer service representatives.
And one of our listeners said that I would rather them not contribute to charity, in quotation marks, save that money and lower our rate prices, because it's the ratepayers that pay those contributors. What do you say to that, Anthony or Sarah?
So I think, as I said, it's one of our core values that we have to positively impact the communities that we serve, and those are not contributions that are affecting customer rates. And so it's very important that we continue to do that and live our core values in everything that we do.
And I think it also marries to the idea of you saying that the rate, there won't be any changes. You're regulated just like any other entity.
Absolutely.
So if those rates do change, there's a process by which that happens.
And a very public process.
Very public process, which is what I was going to say. With the taxpayers and folk who live and thrive in this city could also come and be a part of that conversation should that happen.
Absolutely.
Right. So I think that's important to know as well, because for me, I believe in community service. I believe in any entity that comes and their people are paying into their business, whether it's a grocery store or Delta Utilities. I believe that at some point that entity should have some way to give back to the community that keeps their business thriving.
Absolutely. That's what it means to be a true community partner, and that is who we intend to be.
Yeah. So what are you expecting in your new role here? Because you've been doing it for a couple decades now. So you've mastered the art of this thing. Are you looking for any differences from Washington to New Orleans in terms of what you do?
I'm looking to bring this new opportunity that Delta has brought upon us. I'm looking to just ensure we sharpen those skills. We bring all of the good customer service, good experience to all of the customers here in Louisiana.
Well, before you go, I got a question.
Hello.
All right. How you like us?
I'm loving it. I'm loving it.
You liking New Orleans?
I am.
I cannot ask you that question until I take you to go get some crawfish and maybe a daiquiri, and then I'm gonna ask you how you like us after that, right?
All right.
Because if you've not had a po' boy or something that's natural in New Orleans, like we're not gonna have that question answered properly, right?
Right.
Cause see, my first question before I knew you came from Washington was gonna be where you went to school, right? Because that's a whole conversation happening right now across social media. But I want to say here, we don't ask that to gauge, because the young lady that's not from New Orleans, but she's an influencer in New Orleans.
Yeah.
She's telling folk that we ask that question to gauge your socioeconomic status, and that's not necessarily that's nowhere near the truth. We do that to be communal, because if you tell me where you went to school, I could probably tell you the environment that you call, like,
and also who you know.
Or you're from downtown,
Absolutely.
right? You know what I mean? Like that's why we do
it.
It's like this nice little rival banter we have going on. Because I'm 33, 32, Big Purple, Edna Carr. That's a purple night. That's a purple night. This building is a purple night.
2600.
I mean, so that's why we do it. So listen, once you put your feet down and you begin to get rooted here, they're gonna start asking you like native questions that you're gonna have to answer now.
Okay, I'm looking forward to it.
They're gonna ask you if you had a little po' boy or something, and where you got it from. Because don't let them people take you to no place where you're going to eat, po' boy that's not naturally New Orleans. Now, you need a real po' boy on real French bread, dressed. Nobody knows what dress means but us. That means everything. Put everything on it.
All right. I'm learning now. Yeah.
Right. And Sarah knows some of those places.
I do.
But brother, if you need some help,
we got you.
All right, I'll definitely reach out.
Absolutely, but no, it's always a pleasure to talk to y'all. I feel like I'm learning more and more about Delta Utilities, and again, once the foundation is up and off the ground, we would love to hear about the initiatives that you have going on, how folk can apply for your grants, and as always, if you need a seat to be able to give us more and more updates, you're always welcome to come back to the show.
We're grateful for that.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
If you're just joining us, you missed the conversation with Delta Utilities Vice President of Customer Operations, Mr. Anthony Murdoch, and the Vice President of Marketing and Communications, Ms. Sarah Porteous. Thank you so much for joining us. We have more to talk about on the other side of the break.
Absolutely. Lots
so y'all
going
stay
on.
with us, WBOK 1230 AM, what New Orleans is talking about.
All day long.
Yeah.
New Orleans, are you ready for a voice that says what you're thinking? Who that, you might ask? Arrington Gavin. That's right, I'm your guy, host of the Arrington Gavin Show, giving you so much filled with bold opinions, real conversations, and zero sugarcoating. We're going to be diving into the issues that matter, politics, pop culture, and all the above, unfiltered and unafraid. Catch the Arrington Gavin Show weeknights from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m., Monday through Fridays, right here on WBOK, what New Orleans is talking about.
Good Wednesday morning. I'm Daryl Forges with WDSU News, and here's your headlines. The man convicted of shooting spree that killed 3 people back in 2019 will be sentenced today. Sean Barrett was convicted on multiple murder charges for shooting at drivers in East Jefferson during a 2-week span on June of 2019. 3 men were killed in 2 of those shootings. Barrett's defense argued he wasn't mentally competent, but jurors didn't buy it and found him guilty. Police are still searching for escaped inmates Antoine Massey and Derek Groves. They're the 2 men still on the run after 10 inmates broke out of Orleans Parish Jail 1 month ago. This week, 2 New Orleans homes were searched, one uptown and one in the lower 9th Ward. We're told investigators were looking for Derek Groves, who was already convicted of murder before the escape and hasn't been heard from since. But Massey has been more vocal, even posting videos on social media claiming that he's innocent. A $50,000 reward per each inmate is being offered for any information that can lead to their arrest. Remember, you can call your tip into Crime Stoppers anonymously at 504-822-1111. And heads up for those living and working in New Orleans East. Some of you will experience water outages throughout the morning. This is for residents on Camellia Street and Ransom Street. The Sewerage and Water Board says their contractor will test water closures while fixing valves. It's happening at 8 a.m. and should be completed by noon. I'm Daryl Forges, and that's your headlines for WBOK. Have a great day.
Connect with NOLA Public Schools. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and X for the latest updates. Sign up for District Digest, our official newsletter where we share district achievements, celebrate student successes, and keep you informed about our vision of providing a high-quality education. And don't miss our school board meetings. Watch in person or live stream on YouTube. Stay informed. Stay engaged. Visit NOLAPublicSchools.com today. Again, that's NOLAPublicSchools.com.
the National World War II Museum. Located in the Warehouse District of New Orleans, the National World War II Museum tells the story of America's experience in the war that changed the world, why it was fought, how it was won, and what it means today. Visit them online at www.nationalww2museum.org for time tickets and safety information.
Accru NOLA invites you to join their community network in celebration honoring Juneteenth and Pride Month. On Thursday, June 19th, diverse professionals will gather for FET by Accru, an evening of authentic connection and collaboration from 5 to 8 p.m. at the lab on Ursulines Avenue. This safe, inclusive space brings together innovators across the greater New Orleans area and the Gulf South for meaningful conversations that advances your business and professional career. Accru creates pathways for sustainable growth through genuine community. So for driven networking like this, learn more at accrunola.com/RSVP.
Visit DePaul's new Algiers Health Center at 2801 General de Gaulle Drive to receive primary and preventive care for both adults and children. Services also include behavioral health, imaging, and on-site pharmacy, vision, Medicaid enrollment assistance, and more. For appointments, visit DePaulCommunityHealthCenters.org or call 504-207-3060.
Making a difference in the community. WBOK 1230 AM.
Good morning, Wake Up.
The Good Morning Show. Good morning. On WBOK.
Shout out to my super producer, Nyron Sanders.
All right.
And my co-host, the Will Sutton. Hey, Will.
Good morning.
If you're just joining us, you missed a conversation with Delta Utilities Vice President of Customer Operations, Mr. Anthony Murdoch, and Sarah Porteous, who is the Vice President of Marketing and Communications, talking about Delta Utilities becoming the natural gas provider for all of Entergy New Orleans' customers. So thank you once again to our partners over at Delta for joining us this morning. And right now, we're getting ready to jump into conversation with Peyton Jason, NOHD Office of Violence Prevention, Noah Moore, coordinator of the Gun Safe Storage Program with Ubuntu Village, NOLA Peace Ambassador, and Kaylin Green from Manny Family Children's Hospital, because June is Gun Violence Awareness Month, and we want to talk about how gun violence prevention ecosystems has its community promoting safe gun storage and community. So welcome to the Good Morning Show, everyone.
Good morning. How y'all doing? Good morning.
I'm doing awesome. I'm happy to be here.
So
appreciate you guys.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us. And can each of you briefly introduce yourself and your role in the gun violence prevention ecosystem here in New Orleans?
So my name is Peyton Jason. I work for the New Orleans Health Department in the Office of Violence Prevention, and my role is the role of a gun violence safety coordinator. So we have a firearm safe program where we distribute free gun safes to people. That's one of my roles, and I also participate in the Stop the Bleed training, and the goal of that is to educate people how to stop bleeds in a case of a bleeding emergency. So those things are tied into typically gun violence. So that's all my role is when it comes to working in the health department, is basically the gun violence piece.
Well, that's important.
So do you put the tourniquet above or below?
Above.
All right. You know,
Okay.
I watched Chicago PD. I just wanted to know. And how you doing, Kaylin? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your role in this work?
Good morning. Yes, ma'am. So my name is Kaylin Green. I work for Manning Family Children's. I'm a project manager there, where I specifically work with all of our community benefits programs, and one specific focus of that is our gun violence prevention work. Like Peyton said, we have a safe firearm storage program, and at Children's, we do that in partnership with our health department, as well as our NOLA Peace Ambassadors, who you'll hear from Noah from about in a second. My role in that work is really just to be the front-facing face of our children's hospital. You know, our goal is to keep kids safe and healthy, and we know that starts out in the community. So that's my work, is to be able to be out in the community and help give parents and families the resources and education they need to be able to help keep their kids safe.
And we appreciate you. And Noah, your role in this work?
Yes. My role in this work, I'm an Ubuntu Peace Ambassador, and that's involving me engaging in community members in high violence situations. And my role is a coordinator of the gun safe stores for Ubuntu. And I go out in the communities and see what the needs are needed for our services in order to distribute the free gun safes in high violent areas.
And so with June being Gun Violence Awareness Month, there's so much going on in June. Father's Day is in June. Juneteenth is in June. And June is Gun Violence Awareness Month. What does this month mean to each of you and your organization? You can go first.
I'll go first. Okay. To me, it's a month whereby we need to try to bring down the crime rates for sure, because to make the public aware of the high crime rate in New Orleans, so we want to make them aware of the violence that's being committed against us, by us specifically. And with that being said, we go out in the communities and host different events to whereby we could spread the message.
And I think it's important to note that the violence tends to spike because school is out.
Exactly.
So these are the summer months, and we look for ways to get in front of crime because the kids have so much more time to be out in community. And we tend to see it spike because their school is not happening, programming may not be happening, and they just have idle minds. Well, you know, idle mind is the devil's workshop. So I think that too lends itself to why June is so important in terms of gun violence prevention. What do you think?
And that's for sure, because we host the summer enrichment program, whereby we give approximately about 15 to 17 youth from high-risk crime areas the chance to go on excursions with us, offer mentoring services, and we also give them stipends for attending the program. It's an 8-week program, whereby at the end of the 8 weeks, I really shouldn't be saying this on the air, but they get $2,400.
Why wouldn't you say it on the air? I mean, the kids.
That's incentive.
Yeah, like what?
Yeah.
But you can't show up on the first day and then the last day.
Exactly.
No, you gotta shoot them. You gotta shoot them like the colleges do. You gotta make sure
Exactly.
they pass that time to have that eye, and then they release the money. That's what you're saying.
Yes, because, you know, we'll get an overflux of the kids showing up, and we try to keep it to a minimum based on the amount of resources that we have funds-wise, so that we could give the money out evenly to all the kids.
Okay. But that's a wonderful incentive. I mean, money makes things move most of the time. But I like the fact that there are other opportunities as well. They're going on excursions, you said. Like, can you tell us about one of the activities that you've done with the youth?
Okay, last summer we took them to Alabama and Atlanta. We took them to the Martin Luther King Museum. I believe that was in Atlanta. And then we took them to a civil rights museum in Alabama also. And we took them to different places out to eat. And they really enjoyed it. It was different because of the youth that we're dealing with today. So it was kind of fun interacting with them.
So how many youth did you take, and were those separate trips, or you did that on the same trip?
All on the same trip, and it was 15 youth, and we had chaperones for all the youth.
Wow.
As well.
Yeah.
So
those are great experiences.
Yeah, it definitely was a great experience because we got to see the young men, because it's predominantly for men mentoring, because they're the most impacted by the violence that's committed within the city. So we got to see them in rare form as far as them interacting with folks outside of their communities, whereby they had a couple of guys, young men, that went up to the young ladies out there in the community in the other areas.
You know you can't take a New Orleans man nowhere, baby.
Yeah, and so they was exchanging phone numbers, but it was good to see them knowing how to carry themselves in a different environment.
And I think, too, it's important, too, because, you know, we tend to find when we take children outside of New Orleans, more often than not, that's one of the rare occasions that they leave the city of New Orleans so that they can see more. So I appreciate the opportunity and the access that you guys are providing for our children. So, Peyton, can you explain the origins of the Firearms Safe Storage Initiative and how it fits into the broader violence prevention strategy for the city?
So, you know, since 2022, The city's health department has been in partnership with the Louisiana Health Department, Manning Families, Children, and the Be Smart campaign, and has been working to educate families about the importance of secure firearm storage and providing free biometric gun safes to gun owners in the community. And since we started this work, we've given away more than 3,000 locking devices and biometric safes to residents in New Orleans, and we're just exploring on ways to expand our work. This came about because at the hospital that Caitlin works at, Manning Families, what do you say, they're seeing about one gunshot victim a week, per week. That's something more she can speak on, but one gunshot victim per week, and that's only 1 to 13-year-olds, right? We're not even counting 14 to 17-year-olds, so obviously we have an issue when it comes to it. And, I want to speak further to some of the statistics that I have here, right? So since 2015, there have been 2,500 unintentional shootings by children under 18 in Louisiana, resulting in 121 injuries or deaths. And, that is number one in the country. So Louisiana has the highest rate of unintentional shootings by children in the U.S. and most unintentional firearm injury deaths among shooters, just meaning that these kids are getting their hands on guns and accidentally shooting themselves and killing themselves, So, the program is a necessity because we have a epidemic of unsecured firearms in our nation,
So what do you say to the gun owners who feel like if something is happening in real time, I don't have the time to unlock a safe to retrieve my weapon if the threat is imminent? I want to be able to grab my firearm immediately to be able to protect myself. What do you say to that group of individuals who don't believe in storing the gun for that reason?
Well, we come across those people every single week. And the thing is, we actually did surveys, and we try to figure out what would be the best locking device for individuals. And after those surveys, it came out that people were more interested in biometric safes, right? And these safes open up in less than a second. There's 3 options to open these safes. You can open it with your key, which we don't suggest, right? We want you to store your key separate from the safe to keep the gun safe from anybody who shouldn't have access. But then there's a keypad, right? You can store unlimited codes in this safe. And then there's a biometric fingerprint option, and you can store about 20 fingerprints in this safe. So just scanning your fingerprint, it pops right open just like a phone. So a lot of people feel like that, but once they see our safes in action, they're like, oh, I could see myself using this. I could see myself being able to get to it in a crunch.
Good morning, Gary. Welcome to the Good Morning Show.
Good morning. Hey, I'm listening about the gun locks and the gun safes, but what's really missing in this whole gun violence piece and gun safety stuff and all that is the education piece, education and training. That's the part we never talk about. And the anti-gun people, they never mention, okay, that's with households with firearms. Let's make sure the people who have firearms are well trained and educated about them. In the black community, we suffer because of lack of education, about the lack of knowledge of firearms. The more we talk about just securing them, that more talk about just securing them doesn't provide somebody with the training and understanding of the firearm. If you're just locking it up, you're not gaining any knowledge. So I'd like to meet with the people you have on that panel there. I have a group we've been doing this for 6 years. We've done stuff for the city's Office of Gun Violence Prevention and all. And I said, let's try to add that piece about education and training. I'm sorry, I'm driving right now. But we have, we need to get that piece done.
I appreciate you, Gary.
The other thing is mental health and social services. Whenever there's one of these shootings, or mass shootings or killing or whatever, we break it all down. It come down to that person had a mental health or a social issue that wasn't addressed. That's the other component. Training, education, mental health, social services. I'll listen.
Thank you, Gary. I appreciate you. And Caitlin, I'll give you an opportunity to answer that because I have a question that marries with Gary's commentary. And how does your work with Manning Family Children intersect with firearm safety education?
I think it's ultimately the core of what we do, so I appreciate your question and Gary's question. We always say that what we're really trying to implement is a culture change. It's really not about the free biometric safe at the end of the day. That's a resource that we like to give. We want our outreach to last far beyond that initial interaction with the family. Every time that a family comes up to our table, we first and foremost start by having the conversation about safe firearm storage, teaching the awareness and education about how safe firearm storage affects our kids. and then also providing resources and connecting our families to our resources here at Manning Family Children. So that's ultimately why the ecosystem works so well. We give them trauma and grief resources. Speaking of the mental health awareness, we partner with our Thrive Kids mental health awareness team, who goes out into the schools every single day and provides mental health care to our families and to our kids. So we really try to make our program holistic and robust. And the Biometric Safe is a resource for those who need it, but there's plenty of families that we come across who may not even have a firearm at the time or may be about to get a firearm, that we still leave with education, with resources, and with connections back to us at the hospital for what they can do to protect their families and their kids, and spread the word, honestly, about the education to all family members that they come in contact with.
And Noah, to Gary's point, does Mbutu or anything you're doing in partnership with Manning Children's Hospital, and even with the partnership here, is there any initiative whereby we're giving families gun courses to teach them how to use the firearm, how to clean the firearm, how to safely store the firearm? Is that also happening in conjunction with the work that you're doing with these partner organizations?
Respectively, our main goal is to secure the firearms in the homes for the kids, to keep the kids from being affected by gun violence within the homes. So that's our main objective. And we offer potentially like services whereby they could go ahead and further the education about gun safety, but that's not something that's in our bag.
And I'm thinking, I mean, this is why we have these sorts of conversations, because that might be something we can talk about doing, bringing somebody like Gary is trained to do that. They offer the courses and the classes and things of that nature. So maybe we can pull in another partner organization to do that layer of it, because it all goes back to gun safety. Because as he stated, to just store it is just one box checked. But even when it's not stored, if you don't properly know how to use it, you could be a threat to your children because you don't know how to do it. Some folk don't even know not to point a loaded gun at people, because guns can go off. You shouldn't point a gun, whether it's loaded or unloaded, at anybody. But some folk don't know that, and they're gun owners. You know, so I think just kind of having that extra layer, that speaks to like a robust education program as it relates to gun safety. So is that something that we can think about maybe adding to the partnerships?
Well, the reason that we focus so much on storage rather than that component is because, like I said, we are number one in the nation in unintentional shootings of children.
Yeah.
Right? So because we're number one in the nation in unintentional shootings of children, because there is, we have a epidemic of guns being stolen from cars, 114,000 last year in the U.S., right? A lot of people buy firearms and they just put them somewhere, right? So maybe us educating them about secure storage and talking to them about the importance of it and keeping their kids and their family members safe, that's a stepping stone to them thinking, okay, now that I'm starting to understand about securing firearms, maybe the next step is to learn how to use it. Maybe I can reach out in that piece. That could be something that what we may look at down the road, but that's more of a question for my superiors than for
No, I
ourselves.
appreciate that. I appreciate what you're doing, because all of the layers are extremely important. Gun safety is important in terms of storage, because I personally have a story about that. There's a baby that comes from my community who was just killed because a gun wasn't stored properly. It apparently hit the ground, went off, and shot the baby, and the baby's no longer here. So, I mean, we appreciate the work you're doing, but to Gary's point, that's just something else to think about. Maybe not for you guys, but just for gun owners to think about. To own a gun is not just owning it. To own it means you have to understand how to use it, how to store it, how to keep it clean, because you don't want it to misfire, right? So these are just additional things to think about, maybe not necessarily for your organization, but just to think about in terms of gun safety education.
And a question, the kid that you were referencing, was that in the Uptown area, Central City, November 2024?
It was recent, yes.
So as a result of that, we all collaborated with all our partners, and we distributed to all the early learning centers in the area, majority that we could reach that was willing to accept our free gift. We distributed over 118 safes, as well as we went to New Orleans East Hospital around that same time and distributed another potentially 100 to 150 safes to frontline workers and people in those communities because of that incident.
Yeah.
So we try to be more preventative and get in front of problems as a result of that kid that you're specifically speaking of.
Mhm.
Because if I'm not mistaken, that was a 3-year-old little boy.
It was.
So we try to get in front of the problems first and foremost,
Mhm.
and therefore we can't, like he was saying, for us doing the extra steps because the demographics that we're targeting or that's committing the crimes, we're talking about people potentially under the age of 25. So we know it takes till you reach the age 25 for your brain to fully develop. So they doing a lot of irrational thinking. So
Well, again, I mean, that just lends itself to this is it's about a partnership across a multitude of organizations. This may not be an issue for what you're doing specifically, but it's just an extra layer to the conversation about gun safety education. So how can our listeners support or connect with your efforts during Gun Violence Awareness Month and beyond? That's either of you can answer that.
So we have a event coming up this Saturday, actually, Family Day at the Treme Center, 10 to 1. It's an opportunity for people to come out and enjoy food, fun, and festivity, but also see what the work that we're doing for the community, because a lot of people aren't aware of the work that we're doing and what ways we can help them. We actually have things there and resources there that can help them in more than just the gun violence way, right? But there's other things you may need. So come out to Treme Center and support our effort. Also, just come out to our events and learn what we do, see what we do on the ground, get some education about secure storage and understanding, what it takes to keep yourself and your family safe.
And for our listening audience who may be want to reach out for a safety kit, where can they reach you? Is there an email? Is there a website, phone number? How do we contact either of you?
If they go to Manning Family Children's and click About Us, Gun Safety, there's an entire webpage where it has all the resources, information, and education about safe firearm storage. But also there's a link where you can click here to sign up for your free gun lock, is what it says. On that link, you can fill out your information, and then we email out every month with days and times that they can come by to the hospital and pick up. And people stay on that list for about 2 to 3 months, so that if they can't make it on that month, they roll over to the next month, and we give our families multiple opportunities to pick up. And also, it's not in Gun Violence Awareness Month, but the hospital will also be having our annual Back to School Boogaloo at Joe Brown Park in New Orleans East on July 26th, where we'll have a lot of safes on hand, as well as also a lot of other resources for families and kids, too.
Well, since it's technically still Father's Day, I'm just going to go there. We're going to let Noah have the last word. Are there any final thoughts on what a safer New Orleans looks like, and how can we all be a part of building it? You got about 30 seconds, Noah.
we can.
Now you got 20.
A safer New Orleans will look like in the future, whereby everybody in the ecosystem come together and push forward in a collaborative effort to get the message out there about gun violence and the violence that's being committed within the city, and bring the communities together.
I appreciate you. And look, if you're just tuning in, you missed the conversation. That is a much needed one. It's about gun safety. It's about making certain that you properly store your firearms. So I would like to thank Peyton Jason, Noah Moore, and Kaylin Green for joining us this morning. And if you ever have the need to update us on what your organizations are doing, please feel free to come and have a seat at WBOK, because this is a conversation that's a continuum. As long as there's crime, there's going to be a need for talks about safety and education collectively. So we want to thank you for joining us this morning. Y'all stay tuned for the closing of the show, as only we know how, right here at WBOK 1230 AM, what New Orleans is talking about
all day long.
Plan on flying? It's time to upgrade to a Real ID. Because in order to board domestic flights, your driver's license or state-issued ID must be a Real ID, or you'll need another acceptable form of identification. So don't wait. Find out how to get your Real ID at tsa.gov/RealID. That's tsa.gov/RealID. Or visit your local DMV. And then you'll be cleared for takeoff.
Welcome to Chemical of the Month by the community scientists at Rise St. James. This month, we spotlight phthalates, chemicals added to plastics, especially PVC, to make them more flexible and durable. But there's more. Research shows phthalates may disrupt hormones, affect reproductive health, and contribute to environmental pollution impacting our communities. Join us as we explore how these additives shape our everyday lives and the world around us. For more details, visit risestjames.org. Empower your knowledge with Rise.
Hi, this is Cary Grant. Let's elevate every Tuesday through Thursday from 6 to 7 p.m. as we discuss the community, the country, and the world, from politics to current events and sports. We look forward to your input and continuing the quality programming on your community station, WBOK. Join us every Tuesday through Thursday, 6 to 7 p.m. on Elevated Conversations, the Arnie and Cary Show.
Hello, I'm Gary Clark. Please tune in to Dr. Clark 101, The Living Classroom, which is broadcasted weekly every Wednesday at 12:30 p.m. on WBOK 12:30 a.m. on your dial. And as always, it's been a pleasure.
Hey everybody, it's Kimber White Dupree.
And it's Graylin Brian Banks from the front porch. We're coming up next.
Good morning, Wake Up.
The Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
On WBOK.
Shout out to my co-host D. Will Sutton. Hey, Will.
Good morning.
And my super producer Naren Sanders.
All
If
right,
you missed
Naren.
the last conversation, we were talking to Peyton Jason from the New Orleans Health Department's Office of Violence Prevention. Noah Moore, coordinator of the Gun Safe Storage Program with Ubuntu Village as a NOLA Peace Ambassador, and Kaylin Green from Manning Family Children, talking about June being Gun Violence Awareness Month. So the whole conversation was about gun storage, but to Gary's point, education is important because
It's
you can
very
store the gun all
important.
you want.
Yeah,
If you don't know how to use it, how to all of the protocols in place of when you are able to actually shoot, because that's a part of the conversation as well. Because you can be charged if you use your gun inappropriately in terms of self-defense.
Yes.
So you need to make certain, take the class. If you need to go to the range with an expert on guns and familiarize yourself with it, because some people just buy guns to have them and don't really know how to use them, when to use them, how to properly
even know
store
what
them,
they're
how to
buying. They're
clean
just
them.
buying a gun.
Absolutely, they don't really know. So I think to Gary's point, that is extremely important. We have a few minutes, but there's some stuff that we just have to talk about.
All right.
Will.
All right.
We just have to talk about, and one of the things being New Orleans native Tyler Perry is being sued for allegations of sexual harassment and assault. The complainant is suing, Derek Dixon is suing the mogul for $260 million after alleging sexual assault, sexual harassment, sexual assault, and retaliation. Now listen, this is a guy who Tyler Perry actually put in two of his projects, one being Ruthless. And then he invited him to his home. The young man accepted the invitation. The young man, in his own words, said he was too drunk to go to his own place, so he slept in Tyler Perry's guest room. He is saying that Mr. Perry came into his room practically uninvited and touched on him in a way that he did not invite him to touch on him. And after that, thereafter, he still participated in one of Tyler Perry's projects,
Right.
which would be the Oval. So Rootless came first. The allegation, the issue that the allegation is based on with him being at Tyler's house happened after Rootless, but before him going to feature on the Oval.
The new job.
And then it was after that point, well after that point, that now he's saying that Tyler Perry made unwanted advances and that he did not reciprocate those unwanted advances. And Mr. Perry's attorney, Matthew Boyd, responded to the complaint saying this is an individual who got close to Tyler Perry for what now appears to be nothing more than setting up a scam. But Tyler will not be shaken down, and we are confident these fabricated claims of harassment will fail. So that is a direct quote from the attorney representing Mr. Perry. And listen, I too want victims to be believed, victims. But I think we are in an era now where a lot of folk are looking for a payday. And, you know, this is not a guy that is below the age of consent. This is a grown man. He befriended Mr. Perry, and he, by his own account, he befriended him looking for an opportunity to advance his career.
Right.
And so Mr. Perry put him in some small roles in Ruthless. Their friendship continued. They were friends enough to be invited to Mr. Perry's home. He accepted the invitation. After that, he was in the Oval, which is another one of Mr. Perry's works. And it wasn't until, I guess, after his appearance in the Oval that these allegations came out. It's also being reported that the opportunity slowed down for him as it relates to Mr. Perry. And so people who are skeptical of his claims are saying that because his career didn't go in the way that he thought it should,
he thought he was
by him
gonna lead
befriending
to-
Mr. Perry, that now this is the next step that he's taking. But according to his complaint, he said that Mr. Perry he's accusing him of creating a coercive, sexually exploitive dynamic.
Right.
But if that be the case, if he did that to you and you felt this way, why take another role from him? So that's like one of the questions I want to know. And you know, I think people of that stature and that sort of wealth have to be more cognizant and have more discernment about people that they bring around them and allow to get next to them. Because, I mean, on the outside looking in, there's so many questions. Like, because for me, if the incident happened prior to the Oval, why accept the role in the Oval if you felt like he was trying to coerce you into a sexual dynamic prior to your appearance in the Oval? That would be my question for that adult male. Right? And so Mr. Perry is saying that it's a shakedown. And he's not going for it. So he's already put his attorneys on the case. The other story, I don't know, Will, did you want to comment on that for about 30 seconds? You think?
Well, you know, I mean, this is one of those things where, you know, I think we always want to start from a place of giving the benefit of the doubt to the alleged victim and believing, if not their entire story, but that there's some basis to what they're saying. But then you go to the different layers to say, well, what actually happened? And that's where you dig in and find out more. And I suspect we'll find out some more. But I'm pretty darn sure he's not going to get $260 million.
Well,
but I'm also thinking that this may not see a court date.
Yeah, and here's the thing again. If it happened, he deserves justice. If it did not happen, there has to be something done to people who try to ruin people's reputation and their careers on false allegations.
Right.
And it also waters down the opportunity for real victims to have their voices amplified and believed when things of this nature happen. So either way, we'll keep monitoring it because it's a big deal. And on the national front, because we got about 30 seconds. The MAGAs are fighting. So Marjorie Taylor Greene has come out against Donald Trump. She's siding with Tucker Carlson because the president posted and said, somebody please explain to Kooky Tucker Carlson that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon because these folk are now going against their commander-in-chief because they too feel like he's inserting the country into a battle that does not have anything to do with the United States.
Right.
And so Tucker Carlson came out and said something publicly. That was Donald Trump's response. And then Marjorie Taylor Greene came out and she said something, and all of the diehard, MAGA crowd is also tending to lean into what Tucker Carlson is saying. So I think that the current president is starting to see his grip on absolute power kind of weaken because maybe this is where they draw the line.
Yeah, because, basically you're talking about the Republican hawks who are very much peace through strength, and war is the way to go to get what we need. And then the isolation is like, let's live in our own lives.
Yeah.
Leave those people alone.
Yeah.
And right now, that's where they're coming from. It's like, we don't need to get involved, is what they're saying.
Well,
we don't need to get involved. Mm-hmm. We're with you on so many other things, but if you do this, it becomes a global issue.
And if you don't know what we're referencing, Israel and Iran are basically in a war right now. France has sided with Israel, and Korea is siding with Iran. And Iran has actually made a very direct threat against the United States if they want to stick their nose in something that they believe is not their business. They're prepared to go to war. And so that's what we're talking about. But look, y'all, we gotta go. We're gonna be back tomorrow, but y'all stay tuned up next for Front Porch. We're Graylin and Kimber. As far as the good morning, see y'all tomorrow. This is WBOK 1230 AM, what New Orleans is talking about
all day long.